Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a good spring. I actually am. I have been on hiatus because I've just been busy with a couple things, and today I'm back with apple pie. Now, I know there's like a lot of tools and gadgetry right here, but that's just, again, because I've been on hiatus, so I'm kind of like missing my knives and my stuff. So you definitely don't need all of this. You'll see once I start with the recipe. You just need a handful of things and your hands. But let's get started. So I have both the dough ingredients as well as the actual filling ingredients here. I have flour right here for the dough, butter for the dough, butter for the actual filling, an egg just to make an egg wash, just to brush on top, 2 kinds of sugar, brown sugar and granulated regular white sugar for the filling. This is just a little bit of flour for the filling, just to thicken up those juices, some cinnamon, nutmeg, a little bit of clove, sugar. This is just raw sugar to sprinkle on top of the pie to give it like a nice crust. This is some sugar for the actual crust itself, some salt, and my apples, limes. I have 2 kinds of apples, Granny Smith and Fuji. I have an orange and another Fuji on standby. But that's pretty much it. So let's get started. Oh, and limes. Limes and lemons, of course. Lime, lemon, orange, whatever kind of citrus you want to squeeze in there, your choice. A few other things I do have on standby are some hot tea because my throat gets raspy and I have a cough, unfortunately. And I do have 2 squares of parchment paper to roll out my dough and some ice water for my dough in case, well, I'm going to need it. I don't know how much yet. It all varies, but let's just get started. Okay, so I have my flour right here. And I'm just going to grab a little whisk, quite literally a little whisk, and just give it a quick whisk just to break up any clumps. This really eliminates the need to sift and does the job. And then I'm going to add some sugar. I have 3 kinds of sugar on this table. I have about 5 in the kitchen, but whatever sugar you use is fine. And this is just some sea salt. The salt definitely brings out the sweetness, adds another dimension of flavor really, because you don't necessarily taste saltiness, but sometimes it hits you and it's really, really good. So I'm just going to give this a quick mix, just so we don't have a clump of one thing in one place when we're incorporating our butter. This is our butter. It's cubed and chilled. I cubed it last night and I chilled it in the fridge. We need it extra cold because that's what's going to give us a flakier crust. And we're not going to have like a cookie dough. I could get it out, of course. Okay, so this is a very easy dough. I have a wire cutter. This is just a pastry cutter. You could definitely use a fork, and if not, you could definitely use your hands. Now, the reason I would avoid using my hands, or at least use them very quickly, is because you definitely do not want to melt the butter with the temperature of your fingers, because it defeats the point of chilling it in the first place. So I'm going to go ahead and do this until I have it to the right consistency, and I will be right back. Okay, so you want to go ahead and do that until you have a texture like so. Let me just, yep, I'm trying to focus in. Like so. What you want to do now is go ahead and add your ice cold water. This is ice cold, and that's very important because our dough needs to be cold. And I'm only adding half of it. You want to add a tablespoon at a time until you get the consistency you want. And I'm just going to, I do need to get in here with my hands, but I'm just going to do this as fast as possible to avoid warming the mixture up. Okay, so this is what our dough looks like. It just comes together. It's not going to look perfect because what we actually need to do is get some plastic wrap, like I have right here. Get your dough Mine is a little bit sticky, but that's okay because we're gonna roll it out with flour later. And you just want to get your plastic wrap. And I know I'm gonna need another piece. Actually, I might not. And just kind of form it into a rough ball. What I would suggest if you're making a pie with a top and a bottom, just half it and then refrigerate it like that. So what I'm gonna do, you could see like the chunks of butter in there. What I'm going to do is refrigerate this, and then I will be back in 30 minutes. I'm actually gonna put mine in the freezer. Be back in 30 minutes and we'll get started on the apple filling. About 15 minutes has passed since my dough's been in the freezer, so I'm just gonna get started on my apple mixture because that's about how long it's going to take for me to get this done. I'm just going to use my, what is this, a Pyrex glass jug just to mix my apples in. I'm gonna put that aside for now, and my little 6-inch pie dough plates aside. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, however, the recipe I gave you makes about one 10 to 12 inch pie for a top and a bottom. And I'm going to just be making 2 6-inch pies, and with whatever's left over, I don't know, maybe I'll make like hand pies or something. But I do have a few kinds of apples here because texture and flavor difference. I have some limes, and I have another apple and an orange. You need some kind of citrus for this. I'm not sure if I'm going to use lime or orange. Maybe I'll use both. Whatever I feel like when the time comes. So you just take your apple, and I don't make apple pie 100 times a year, so I don't need one of those special tools, though it'd be nice to have it. I just cut the top off like this, and the bottom. I eat these, I don't waste them, so don't tell me that I'm wasting them. And I just peel it like this. You could use a paring knife, whatever floats your boat. I know I'm doing a really crappy job. Let me get my other peeler. Okay, I have my other peeler. I've had about 8 million years. But I'm going to get my previous bowl that I mixed my pie mixture in. And I'm going to use that as my garbage bowl. But you just want to make sure you peel all your apples. They don't need to be peeled perfectly because, keep this in mind, they're cooking, they're under a crust. We're not making like a French apple tart or anything, so they're not going to be exposed. I just want to show you one. Okay. So, cut your apple in quarters. Cut the core out. Use a core if you have a core, whatever works for you. And then after this, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna slice the apples into as thick or thin pieces as you want. Keep in mind that your dough needs to cook and not overcook, so however cooked you want the apples is how small you want to cut them. I don't like my apples crunchy in there. I like them pretty soft, like not applesauce soft, but pretty soft. So I'm gonna cut them about, what is this, like 1/8 of an inch. 1, 2, yeah, about segmenting each segment. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this with all my apples. I really don't know how much I'm gonna need for this little pie dishes, but better safe than sorry, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. So I decided to come back even though I'm still doing this because I changed my mind, and I decided since my pie plates are so small, I'm actually going to not only segment them really thin, but I'm going to cut them in half, so I almost have like this cube thing going on, just because I want to pack it with as much apple as I can, and I want to make sure that they cook through and get as soft as I want them to be, because it says since it's such a small pie, the baking time will be less. And I just want to make sure everything is as I want it. Now, this might be a long video. I'll try to make it short. But it's packed with tips. At least I hope it is, that I don't edit them out. So I hope that you guys stick with me through this. But the reason why you use 2 apples is because you kind of want like a 2 flavor combination thing going on. You know, you want the tartness from the green apples, the Fuji is really sweet, some apples are crisper than others. But in all honesty, use whatever you have. If you have all the ingredients to make apple pie, which you should because there's pretty simple ingredients, you do not need to go to the store to just buy the, you know, the kind of apples that I'm telling you today. But typically anywhere from 2 to 3 apples or so are used in these ingredients. I mean, I know Martha Stewart has a recipe with cheddar, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with cheddar in her pie crust, because apples and cheddar go really well together. But you know, you make the rules in your own kitchen, of course. So whatever you want. If you don't have 2 kinds of sugar, like I had the brown sugar and regular sugar, just use granulated. If you don't have flour, you could use cornstarch. If you don't have lime or oranges, you could use lemon juice. You know, what you need to do is just remember that whatever floats your boat, if that makes sense. So whatever floats your boat. I think I'm gonna only use 4 apples. So I used 3 Granny Smith apples and 1 pretty large Fuji apple. I think that'll do, though I don't know, I've seen some shows where they stuff a good amount of apples, like 9-10 apples in like a 10-inch pie. So I don't know, we'll see how I want to mount this. But I am done, I think, I hope. Okay, so see, we have these nice little apple ring chips we can eat now with some almond butter. So get your apples, give them a quick toss, mix them around, whatever you need to do. Now, a really quick tip, if you don't want your apples to go brown, and I think this even applies to bananas if I remember correctly. I am on NyQuil right now. What do you call it? Yeah, you just sprinkle a little bit of citrus on it, so while you're on standby working on the rest of your apples, they don't turn brown. I'm gonna use a little bit of orange zest in here, just the tiniest bit. I'm just gonna use it of the, like, maybe, I don't know, half an orange. All up to you. So do not ask me how much I put in here, because I literally just eyeballed it. And then I'm going to cut my orange in half and just squeeze the tiniest bit, not really the tiniest bit, of orange juice in here. And I'm feeling crazy, so I'm just gonna roll my lime. The reason I roll it like this is to kind of break the little segments, the little, I don't know, what would you call them, granules? And I'm just gonna add a little bit of lime juice. Why not? I have it. It's just another dimension of flavor. Right? Why not? So now the reason we have, actually, I'm not even gonna jump ahead. I'm going to add, this is just a tiny bit of cinnamon, the smallest bit of ground clove, and a nutmeg. So now I'm kind of feeling like I should have probably brought more cinnamon, which I will grab in a second. Nutmeg is just, I don't know, gives it a little bit of flavor. This, you can't really place your finger on it. You don't want to overdo it because it could almost be a little spicy. My 2 sugars. Like I said, if you only have white, just use white sugar, regular granulated sugar. If you have powdered, you could probably even use that, no problem. I'm going to put a pinch of salt. Remember, salt always brings out the flavor of anything sweet. And before I move on, I'm just gonna grab a tad bit more cinnamon and I will be right back. Okay, so how much more cinnamon do I want? It all depends how cinnamony you want your apples to be. I mean, if you make it the first time, you'll kind of get a good idea of exactly what you need to change the next time around. So you just want to mix these apples. Your hands will probably be the best tool, but if I wash my hands one more time, my skin is going to shrivel off. I know that's not a cute visual, but I'm in California, and over here the weather is 80 degrees one day And then the next day it's raining. That's probably why I'm sick. No complaints though, at least it's not a blizzard or a storm of any kind, you know? Okay, so you just want to mix everything, and it starts to smell pretty amazing about now. And you could see the apples let out a lot of liquid. We have a lot of liquid from the citrus we put in here, and it starts to basically a lot of liquid, and there's a lot of moisture coming out of these. When you bake that, it's going to turn your crust into mush because there's going to be so much liquid. So what to do to prevent this, and I guess this is another tip, is you just add a little bit of flour or a little bit of cornstarch, and it actually forms like a, you know, it just mixes in there. I guess all of this will work, why not? It just mixes in there and it soaks up all the juices. So when you cut into your apple pie, you have this one nice slice. Of course you have to let it cool. And you have one nice slice and the juices don't run and everything doesn't just kind of fall apart. That's what the flour or cornstarch is for. Now the reason I give these tips is because I understand that a lot of different people of different levels of baking and cooking probably watch these videos, and I don't want to leave anybody out who doesn't already know that, because some people know more than I do, some people know better or less than I do, and I just want to make sure that every step I do makes sense to everybody. Okay, so this is done. I'm putting this aside. Gonna go grab my dough, kind of clean up, and I will be right back. Some pecans here, just ground it up. You could just opt out, not even use nuts or use a different kind. Brown sugar, granulated sugar, brown sugar, granulated sugar, some quick cooking oats, and regular flour. Sorry, I'm trying to like focus you guys in. Some salt, some cubed butter, that's been out for a while so it's softened. Obviously my apple mixture, my pie dough, some extra flour, and that's about it. So I did just finish my apple pie recipe like I said, so go to that if you want to see how to make the dough and to make the inside mixture. This is just the assembly of Dutch apple pie. So I have a little 6-inch pie dish, and I know I have plenty more dough than I need, but I'm going to roll it out on the same parchment paper I used to roll out my other one. You just put a little bit of flour, put your dough in there, put a little flour on top, put your second piece of parchment on top, and this is where you use a rolling pin to roll it out. I thought it would be clever to use my little rolling pin that I use for little things, but that's fine. Use whatever you have. Be resourceful. So I'm going to roll it to about an 1/8 inch thick. And I just took this dough was chilled, so I just took it out of the refrigerator. And I'm going to roll it out, and I'll be right back, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've rolled out my dough. It's kind of an odd shape, but that's okay because we're using this for a mini pie. I'm not too concerned about not having enough or this pie dough ripping. The purpose of the parchment paper, as I mentioned in my previous the apple pie video, is to help it transfer for usually bigger pies. I don't necessarily need it for this. So you just want to, oh my god, I got rid of my, be right back, let me get a knife. Okay, so you just want to cut off the edges. Now if you've ever eaten a Dutch apple pie, the way it's different from a regular apple pie is that it, instead of having a pie dough on top, such as the bottom, it just has pie dough on the bottom, and on top we actually have a nice like crumble, like a crumble topping. Whoa, almost cut myself. Okay, so this is all rustic, does not need to be perfect. That's not even going to be visible. I'm just going to put my apple pie mixture in there. There it is. That is what you do. You just fill it like you would a normal apple pie. Let me get this guy out of the way. Now, I love pecans. If you heard that beep, it's my other pie finishing. One moment. Okay, it needed another 10 minutes. So, I love the flavor of toasted pecans. I understand they can either not be available in some places, or it could be costly. I buy mine in bulk. I am a baker, I do bake, so I try to find ways to do it. But if you can't, totally fine. You don't even need to worry about it. So in this bowl, I have the sugars, the flour, the quick cooking oatmeal. I'm not going to put any cinnamon or anything in here. I am going to sprinkle just a tad bit of salt because I do want to make sure that it really brings out all those flavors. And I'm going to put butter. This is what we're looking for. Perfection. Okay. Grab your apple pie, which is delicious and on its own. Now, for my regular apple pie, I forgot to do this step, but I guess I'll show you here. You just need to pinch chunks of butter between your fingertips and just dot the whole pie with it. It definitely adds some moistness, that rich buttery flavor. And I mean, apple pie, you guys, you don't need to, if you're on a diet or something, dessert is definitely not the way to go. If you want to do dessert, apple pie is not the way to go because we all know that crust is buttery, flaky, and you could totally not do this step on a Dutch apple pie because all of this is butter, but I did want to show you what look we're going for. I'm going to create a mess, just letting you guys know. I'm going to pile mine on top. And if you have family members or siblings or parents or anyone like mine, you're going to know, I mean, you would basically know that they try to go for as much topping as possible. I think that's the case for everyone though, so I don't feel too bad. Pie is in there. I'm going to it's preheated, well, it's actually going for under 350. This is gonna bake for about 30 minutes or so until the dough is baked and the crust is like delicious and melty and gooey and crispy. I am gonna put this in a cookie tray because I don't want anything to drip into my oven, and I will be right back and show you what it looks like.